Good morning. I had a bit of a rough night because whenever you're in a sort of a lucid state, a lucid state, that would be, for example, a semi-conscious state, when you neither have asleep nor awake. This is when you get all these lucid dreams, thoughts, things like this. So really, what I had during the night was thoughts, dreams, visions that I had no control over, and a lot of it was in relation to what I know, what I don't know. And I eventually arrived at a point that I've been encouraged to arrive at up to now. And I'm finally arrived at the point where I'm now ready to concede that I know nothing. That's why Socrates was renowned as the wisest man of all, because he knew nothing. And now I am ready to concede I know nothing, because life is opinion, life is perception. And really, like, all we have to try and work out and understand life is our faculty of reason. And I have come to my own reasoning through well, as I say, nature teaches me, but nature teaches all of us. But then even to say you can form your own opinion that way. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do from now on. I'm not going to try and indoctrinate you or try to impose my opinions on you or my beliefs or how I see life. I'm going to do Socrates on it. I'm going to ask questions. And I'm going to talk about myself and my own reason in relation to myself, because as Marcus Aurelius said, the best thing for your enemy is not to be like him. So I'm finished with the pantomime. You can't control your thoughts, you can't control your thoughts. But I can tell you now, I can't control mine. I know that for a fact. I'm after being awake half the night there with dreams, visions, thoughts, all coming into my head, and I couldn't switch them off, or I couldn't say I don't want these thoughts, I don't want these dreams, I don't want these visions. That was not within my control. As much as psychology might want to tell me, or even certain, psychology, we'll put them in that category. We'll put them in that category because that's exactly what it is. They have their own categorization. They have themselves as an appointed authority, and I'm going to leave them with that appointed authority. I'm going to leave them with that notion of control, the illusion of control. That's grand, but I know I can't control mine, because even from last night, I couldn't control these things. All I can do is wake up, and the reason I get them when I'm in a semi-conscious state like that, not half asleep, half awake, and the reason I spend most of my nights like that is because that's when my conscious thoughts, I'm not in a position to impose my conscious thoughts on them. I'm absolutely not in a position to refute them, to reject them, to accept them. They just flow in, and if I wake up and I'm fully conscious, then I can think about them and I can choose how to respond to them, or I can reflect on them, or question why I'm even getting these thoughts. But my conscious response to them today is I am now ready to concede that I know nothing. So that is now the stance I'm going to take. I know nothing. Because there's an electrical engineer here at the moment. And whenever anybody is here like that, I ask about everybody. Why are you here? Why are you here? What's your purpose for being here? And I don't impose myself on anybody, but these people end up sitting in my company and bring up certain topics of conversation. So I did try to, when he said to me, teach me some philosophy, and I said, well, sure. How would that be in my interest? I said, would it not be more in my interest for me to learn something from you? And we laughed at that and said, okay, we can do both. But yet, like, I'll talk philosophy all day, but yet when I ask him questions in relation to physics. For example, I give him my simple and basic, and I never ever said it was anything but a simple and basic understanding of physics. I'm a configuration of atoms, you're a configuration of atoms, and we agreed on that, we accepted that. But then when we go into the 0 point energy and we go into matter and antimatter, he's sort of just laughing and sort of saying, I don't know. And then I spent half the night asking myself, is he just here to reinforce my ignorance and allow me to carry on writing a narrative that would make me no different to, say, the psychologists and the people who write a narrative very much based on generalizations and associations, like Freud did, projected all his thoughts, his own introspection, he projected onto everybody else as a generalization. We do this, we do that, and that is a big fat generalization. And this is something I've been saying in the last few videos, that nature is so complex and diverse that generalizations can't work. They don't apply to everybody. Nature is so complex and diverse, and our natures are so different that they don't work. And this again is my opinion, but generalizations don't work, but you can think about that yourselves. And really, when you hear these narratives, and I'm going to finish with these narratives now, I'm just going to talk about myself, and I'm going to ask questions. But when you hear these generalizations and everything else, instead of just identifying with a narrative, and like, for example, Jordan Peterson writes a big narrative about your emotional states and everything else, and what makes you depressed and what makes you anxious and everything else. But instead of identifying with these narratives, maybe you should question them and ask yourself, does this apply to me? Is that true? And in a lot of these cases, I find that they don't apply to me. But I think about them like this, and I find that they don't apply to me. But you can identify with them if you like. But this would involve conscious thought. And then when it comes to whether you can control your thoughts or you can't control your thoughts, ask yourself, can you? Don't have me tell you you can, someone else tell you can. Ask yourself, can you? Ask yourself, can you control your thoughts? Come to your own conclusions on this. Can you control your thoughts? What about people with PTSD? Can they control this? Can they control reoccurring visions and dreams from their past about events that caused them a disturbance? Can they control this? Can they say, "Oh, I'm not going to have these thoughts anymore"? I don't think they can. I know I can't anyway. And the only thing that worked for me, was to change my opinion about them, change my perception about them. So then when I change my perception about them and I seek to understand why I'm getting them, and seek to understand nature and why things are the way they are, and how much exact control I have had and how much control I have in relation to these thoughts and dreams. In other words, basically I was saying the other night that the trauma label is causing the trauma. Because, for example, if the likes of Gabor Mate writes a narrative that this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, and imposes morality on nature, and you identify with this narrative and you say yes, this was wrong and everything else, now you're going to choose to be betrayed, you're going to feel harmed, you're going to feel guilt, shame, betrayal, abused. But how is this serving you? How is this serving you? And that is the question to ask in relation to all beliefs, in all narratives that you choose to believe in all. How about you just do what I do and ask how this is serving you? Because if it's causing you guilt and shame and misery, perhaps it's not serving you very well. And that's identifying with his narrative. But that basically you were betrayed, abused, guilt, shame, everything else. Or you could seek to understand it and adapt a different perspective based on an understanding of nature. But I'm not going to write a narrative for you. As I say, the pantomime, as far as I'm concerned, is over. I'm going to just say I don't know. But I know that seeking to understand nature serves me pretty well. I don't feel any guilt. I don't feel any shame. I don't feel any trauma. I'm not anxious, I'm not depressed, I'm not afraid. I was going to talk about love this morning because I wanted to say a few things in relation to love, Because I ended up saying the other day about how if you don't ask yourself what is your concept of I. So like I don't tell them what the concept of I is. Well, actually I do argue a concept of I do, but all I'm doing is offering them a perspective for their consideration outside outside of you are a self, a thing in itself. And this is what psychology teaches you, that you are an entity unto itself, that you're independent from nature, and then they impose these generalizations upon you. But you can question these things for yourself. Are you separate from nature? Are you separate from nature? What is your concept of I? And if you don't know yourself, are you only in love with a delusion, a misconception of yourself that's far removed from the truth? And then if you're in love with a delusion of yourself, you're going to constantly need support in this delusion. So therefore you're going to believe the other thing which they tell you in Western society: all you need is love. All you need is love. And then if you need love, then maybe the next question to ask is what you're prepared to do for this love. And will you then follow the psychology's narrative and say, well, I better conform as society sees fit. I better suppress aspects of my nature, because you can't change your nature. And I was going to tell you a story in relation to this, the scorpion and the frog, but I don't have time now. But I'm going to tell you as well how I used this story and put it back to people. But I can explain stories to support my thinking that you cannot change your nature, because as my understanding of it is that we have a gene code. We're genetically disposed to a way of thinking, but your gene code is the blueprint for your growth and development. This is the blueprint for your growth and development. Now you can't change this gene code. This is your nature. This is your blueprint for your growth and development. But you can make choices that will turn genes on and off. And this will then not change your nature, but the nature, say, of any children or anyone that comes behind you. It will also impact on the gene expression of those around you. In other words, you get to change the world by changing yourself. But of course, you can think for yourself about this as well. But basically, you can't change your nature. You can turn your genes on and off. And if you want to refute that argument, you can research it yourselves. But that much, I believe myself after researching the subject that you can't change your nature. You can only change your values in relation to it. Yeah, the scorpion and the frog. I wanted to tell you stories about this, but. And then say to yourself, then if you need love, because you then need love to support you, to support your delusion that you love yourself, but which is only a delusion. Like, for example, I don't have a delusion that I love myself because I don't need any validation from you or anybody else. I don't need love. I don't need money. I don't need anything. I don't need anything. That way I'm not susceptible to emotional manipulation, because I need fuck all. But anyway, if you do need love, what will you do for this love? Will you suppress aspects of your nature, your sexuality, your dark side? Will you be, in order to conform that people might like you, that people might love you? And then ask yourself how this will serve you. How does it serve you if you suppress aspects of your nature consciously or subconsciously? How will this serve you? Will it cause you to be depressed? I'm not going to make a generalization and tell you that it will, but it's for you to ask yourself, could this possibly be the cause of depression? Could this possibly be the cause of anxiety, the perceptions of others and how I'm perceived by others? Could this be causing me anxiety? Because I know for a fact, just speaking from my personal experience, that this caused me anxiety in the past. How other people perceive me, and constantly thinking about how other people perceive me. For example, are my videos shite? How should I change my content to accommodate their perceptions? Should I change the way I behave? Should I basically become inauthentic? Should I be myself, and like me or don't like me, I couldn't give two fucks, because but once you're comfortable in your skin, I'm very comfortable in my skin being myself. And your perception of me is absolutely not within my control, and that much I do know, that that your perceptions of me is absolutely not within my control. Now, you can make up your own mind what is and what is not within your control, but I know for a fact it's not within my control, so I'm not going to bother playing to your perceptions or worrying about it either, because it's not within my control. I worry what is within my control, which is to control myself. And even that, it comes back to your concept of I. It comes back to your concept of I and an understanding of a concept of I. Good morning.